There's an unwritten rule among backpackers. Leave no trace. You pack out what you pack in. You leave the woods exactly as you found them. But sometimes you find a place where that rule has been broken. Not by trash or destruction, but by preparation. In 2021, I went off trail in the Smoky Mountains. I was looking for a spot to sleep. Instead, I found a spot that was waiting for me. I was about 4 miles off the Appalachian Trail. I prefer bushwhacking, making my own path. The sun was setting fast, casting long, dark shadows through the trees. I needed to set up camp, but the terrain was terrible. Roots, rocks, steep slopes, nowhere flat to pitch a tent. I was getting desperate. Hiking in the dark in the Smokies is a good way to break an ankle or walk off a cliff. Then I saw it. About 50 yards down into a ravine, there was a clearing. I slid down the embankment and walked into the space. It was perfect. Too perfect. It was a circle of flat, packed earth, about 20 feet wide. No roots, no rocks. It looked like it had been swept with a broom. In the center was a fire ring made of river stones, and neatly stacked next to the ring was a pile of firewood, dry, split logs. I dropped my pack. "Hello?" I called out. I figured maybe a Boy Scout troop had been here recently, but the wood was dry and it had rained 2 days ago. Someone had stacked this wood today. I waited for 10 minutes. No one came. I was exhausted, so I justified it. Trail magic, I thought. Some kind soul left this for the next hiker. I set up my tent. I lit the fire. It caught instantly. I ate my dinner by the fire. It was dead silent. Usually you hear deer moving or raccoons, but that night the ravine was a vacuum. Around 10 p.m., I put the fire out and crawled into my sleeping bag. I fell asleep quickly, but I woke up at 2:30 a.m. I didn't know why. I just snapped awake. My heart was racing. I lay there, listening. Click. It was a soft sound, electronic, like a shutter closing. It came from the tree line directly in front of my tent door. I lay still. Click. There it was again. I slowly unzipped the mesh window of the tent. I peered out into the darkness. The moon was bright enough to illuminate the clearing. About 10 feet away, strapped to a thick oak tree, was a box. I hadn't noticed it when I arrived because it was camouflaged, painted brown and green. It was a trail camera, a game cam used by hunters to track deer, and the little red light on the front was blinking. Blink, blink. It was recording. I felt a wave of anger. Someone had set up a hidden camera to spy on campers? That's illegal and creepy. I unzipped the door and stepped out. I grabbed my knife. I marched over to the tree. I cut the strap holding the camera. The plastic box hits the ground. Thud. I picked it up. It was a high-end model. It had a viewing screen on the back. I wanted to see who put it there. Maybe I could catch a face in the setup footage. I turned on the playback mode. The first video was time-stamped 4 p.m. yesterday, 2 hours before I arrived. I pressed play. On the tiny screen, I saw the clearing. It was empty. The ground was covered in leaves. There was no fire ring, no wood. Then a man walked into the frame. He was tall, wearing a ghillie suit, that camouflage sniper gear that looks like a bush. You couldn't see his face. He was holding a rake. He started raking the ground. He cleared the rocks. He cleared the roots. He spent an hour making the ground perfectly flat. Then he walked off camera and came back with the river stones. He built the fire ring. He walked off again and came back with the firewood. He stacked it neatly. He was building the campsite. I fast-forwarded. The timestamp read 5:45 p.m., 15 minutes before I arrived. The man in the ghillie suit walked up to the camera. He adjusted the lens. He checked the angle. Then he walked behind the tree the camera was strapped to. He didn't leave. He sat down at the base of the tree. He pulled some branches over himself. He blended in perfectly. My blood froze in my veins.
He was hiding behind the tree when I walked into the clearing. I pressed next video. Timestamp 6 p.m. The video showed me walking into the clearing. I looked tired. I dropped my pack. I smiled at the firewood. And in the corner of the frame, just barely visible behind the oak tree, I saw a hand. The ghillie suit man's hand. He was giving a thumbs up to the camera. He watched me set up my tent. He watched me eat. He was 10 feet away from me the entire time. I pressed next video. Timestamp 2:25 a.m., 5 minutes ago. The video showed my tent. It was dark. Then the ghillie suit man stepped out from behind the tree. He walked up to my tent. He stood over me while I slept. He was holding something, a jar. He unscrewed the lid and poured a circle of liquid around my tent. Then he leaned down to the camera. He pulled the mask off. He wasn't some hillbilly. He was a clean-cut guy. He looked like an accountant. He smiled. He pointed to the tent. Then he pointed to his watch. Then he walked not away, but up. He climbed the tree directly above where I was standing right now. I dropped the camera. I looked up. 20 feet up in the oak tree, illuminated by the moonlight, I saw the ghillie suit. He was perched on a thick branch, looking down at me. "You're awake," he whispered. I didn't grab my pack. I didn't grab my shoes. I was barefoot. I ran. I sprinted into the dark woods. I didn't care about the trail. I just ran downhill. I heard him jump down from the tree. Thud. I heard him chasing me. He was fast. I smelled something sharp, the liquid he had poured around my tent. It was gasoline. I saw a flash of light behind me. He had lit the ring of gas. He set my campsite on fire. I ran until my feet were bleeding. I scrambled down a ravine and waded into a freezing creek to hide my scent. I huddled under a riverbank until sunrise. I hiked out to the highway the next morning. A trucker picked me up. I led the rangers back to the spot 2 days later. The campsite was scorched earth. My tent, my pack, everything was burned to ash. They didn't find the man, but they found the trail camera. It was melted, but the SD card was intact inside the casing. The police analyzed the rest of the footage. There were other folders on the card. Folder 1, the couple. Folder 2, the dog walker. Folder 3, Sam. He had done this before. He finds hikers who are off trail. He builds a perfect campsite to lure them in. He waits for them to get comfortable. And the reason he pours gasoline? The police said it wasn't to kill me immediately. It was to create a ring of fire, an arena. In the other videos, the ones in the other folders, he wakes the campers up. He lights the ring, and then he tells them that if they can make it out of the ring without getting burned, he'll let them go. Then he hunts them with a hunting knife. I was the first one who ran before he lit the match. I don't camp anymore. If I want to see nature, I watch a documentary. And if I'm ever walking in the woods and I see a pile of firewood that looks a little too perfect, I turn around and I run.